Hi, everyone. My name is Miranda. I'm with the Valuable Voices podcast. Thanks for jumping on. And I'm excited for you to hear Sarah Manuel's story today. She has a purpose in helping other people find their purpose, which gets me super excited because that's a journey I've been on for a couple years. So Sarah, thank you for jumping on. So good to have you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. Yeah, you are just beautiful. So I can't wait to just dive right in and just see where this takes us. So yeah, kind of share, whatever you feel led to share about your story, and then we'll get to what you're doing today.
Okay, well, I think my story pretty much starts at birth. Not that, everybody's story does, but the significance of my
Right.
story does. Because when I was around 8 or 9 months, maybe a year, I was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy, which is one of the 40 muscular dystrophy diseases. It's the #1 genetic killer of kids under 2. And when I was diagnosed, the doctors told my parents I wouldn't live past 4 or 5 years old. So obviously they were wrong.
Yeah.
But because of the disease, I live my life in a wheelchair. I am very weak. So like 1 pound of weight is heavy for me. And my disease is progressive. So I am stronger today than I will be in, say, 5 or 10 years. It hasn't been really dramatic for me. And in fact, compared to a lot of people with the disease at my age, like I think I'm doing really, really well, which I am so blessed and fortunate for that.
Yeah.
So I have never really let it kind of dictate my life. I haven't let that circumstance kind of decide the kind of life that I was going to have. And I was always really good at finding my entry point. So I grew up in a really small town.
Okay.
And like there were 35 people in my high school graduating class, kind of small town, like minuscule.
Yeah.
And so everybody had to do everything. And when I was in school, there was no exception, or there was never any discussion about if I would go to school there or not. I was just Sarah, and everybody knew me, and my parents had been there forever, so it was never like, oh well, she can't go to school with us.
Yeah.
Especially because this was like in the early 80s. So back then a lot of that stuff did happen, but not in my community. And when there was to do anything, any sort of activity, everybody had to participate, or else there wouldn't be enough people to participate. So when I was in junior high and the girls started playing volleyball, I obviously couldn't play volleyball, but I kept score that first year.
Wow.
And in high school, I wanted to be on the cheerleading squad, and I was a mascot. So I found that the point where I was able to participate, even though I couldn't do everything, I could do enough to where I felt included, and I was happy with what I was able to do with that.
Yeah.
And so I was like the only one in a wheelchair. And it was really because I was able to find my entry point and participate so fully. I kind of had this denial thing going on about being disabled. Like I didn't like it. I didn't believe it. And when I would go to the city or somewhere where there was more people around and I would see other people with disabilities, it would make me really uncomfortable because it was like looking in a mirror. And I couldn't deny my difference then because I didn't want to be different. I didn't want to be, set aside, or, I just wanted to be like everyone else.
Sure.
And it's amazing how powerful the mind is.
Yes.
In that denial. Like I would call and make reservations at like a hotel or a restaurant, and I would get off the phone and my parents would say, well, are they wheelchair accessible? I'm like, I don't know. Why would I ask that question?
Right.
I have to call back. And I just think of all the wasted time and energy that I put into this pretend life, that clearly I was the only one I was fooling.
Wow.
But it was because that desire to be the same as everyone else was so powerful.
Wow.
And I remember having a conversation with one of my friends, and she said, you're not a mistake. Your disability isn't a mistake.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I've heard that message over the years, but when she said it, it just resonated with me. And it's like, oh, okay. And so if I'm not a mistake, there must be a reason why I am in this wheelchair.
Sure.
So that kind of set me off on this whole other path, to where I, instead of like shunning that side of myself and downplaying it and pretending it didn't exist, I started to embrace it.
Yeah.
And that's when my life really opened up for me. So I went back to school to become a school psychologist.
Okay.
So I went from being really uncomfortable around other people with disabilities, to identifying kids with disabilities and advocating for them and their families. So I did this complete 180-degree shift.
Yeah.
And I started to think, I bet you there's more than just me who is kind of struggling with accepting a disability, whether they were born with it or whether they acquired it or what have you. I can't be the only one. So I started kind of putting together this idea that our differences are in our purpose. And
Wow.
if we, instead of downplaying them so we fit in with everybody else, and so, we're just like the same, if we instead embrace and celebrate them, that's where our gold is. That's where everything, important is, because you were given that difference for a reason.
Right. Wow. What a powerful mind shift. I mean, from what I hear you say, your community and where you grew up, you felt accepted, right? You felt loved, you felt accepted, you were in there doing what you wanted to do. It might have looked a little different, but then it seems like you kind of came to the reality of, this is who I am, and just accepting yourself for who you are and turning that from a negative to a positive. That's huge, huge.
Yeah.
I love that. So
Yeah.
take us to where you are today and what you're doing.
Well, I'm still working as a school psychologist, but I'm also pursuing this other side of where I want to help other people kind of get to that same sort of okayness with who they are. Yeah. And realizing that that's, where their purpose is. Because I know a lot of the experts say, I'll tell you, do what makes you happy.
Yes.
It's like, okay, so I can, find my purpose in, having ice cream and, getting flowers, or, because those things make you happy.
Yeah.
I think what people are searching for is joy.
Absolutely.
And that's totally different than happiness. Happiness is fleeting to me. Like it comes and goes with your circumstances.
Right.
Joy is just this feeling of fulfillment and meaning and just peace that is with you no matter what your circumstances are.
And, I agree.
Yeah.
And I feel like you shifting your mindset and choosing joy, really, it's a to me, it's a choice. It's focusing on the blessings, focusing on the gratitude, believing, like for me, it's believing God is good all the time, you know? So Absolutely. That is powerful.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to help other people make those choices and find the beauty and things that they've often downplayed. So I use this as an example because so many of my assessments at school to help determine if a student is disabled is along the lines of reading. So many kids struggle with reading.
Sure.
And, it's like a parent's worst nightmare that, oh my gosh, my kid's dyslexic.
Yeah.
But what people don't realize is that over 50% of NASA scientists are dyslexic.
Wow.
Over 80% of students at MIT are dyslexic because their brains were wired for something else.
Sure.
So just because, you struggle at one point doesn't mean that, you weren't given gifts, on the other end of that spectrum. Doesn't mean that you can't, get beyond that struggle to find the good stuff.
Yes. And you may not look the same way as somebody else doing that, right? And I feel like in our day and age with social media, I mean, our world is just comparing ourselves to each other, right? So I
Absolutely.
just feel like, and a lot of the times you're seeing the highlight reel
Mm-hmm.
of everybody's life, where you know all of the details of your own life, you know? So I feel like it's not even a fair comparison.
Oh, no. It's not even apples to oranges. It's
Yeah.
like apples to raisins.
Right, right. Wow. Well, you are inspiring. I mean, I love everything you said. And again, we all have different challenges, right? Or we might look different, or we might read different. But again, really just focusing on being positive and that mindset shift and choosing joy and choosing to do what makes you happy and helping people. I feel like, don't you get some sort of fulfillment from helping people to believe in themselves and, you know, feeling like your story is inspiring? That's why I do this, because there's so many people out there. Your story is going to inspire so many people, and you sharing that and helping people, I would guess, just fulfills you, right?
Absolutely. Like that's where I get so much joy now,
Yes.
is by helping others kind of realize how awesome they are.
Yeah.
And just, to say, oh, that's why I was made this way. Like just to see the dots get connected is pretty amazing.
Yeah. And that's kind of my story. You know, I've had so many people believe in me, encourage me, and love me, that now I want to give back and be that for other people, right? So can you think of a couple of people that have done that for you, that have kind of been there and, again, believed in you and loved you no matter what?
There have been so many people, but, obviously my husband stands out in such a way. Because like when we first got together, he was like, well, you can have kids, right? I'm like, oh, probably not. No, you can have kids. So like we started going to the, because I was just assuming I couldn't.
Sure.
So we started going to the doctors, and there would be some doctors that say yes and some doctors that say no.
Yeah.
And eventually we just decided to go ahead and try, because our life would be more fulfilled if we were able to be parents. And I got pregnant the first time we tried.
Wow.
I had such an easy pregnancy. It was unbelievable. Like you remember that old TV show, I didn't know I was pregnant. That would have been me. Like I felt no different. Like it was amazing. They were worried about my lung capacity. It's the pressure of the baby down there.
Okay.
My lungs actually got stronger. We were just hoping that I could go 32 weeks to the point where his lungs would be developed enough.
Okay.
I worked through 35 weeks, carried them to 38 weeks. And he's a healthy 10-year-old boy today.
Wow.
So, and all of that started by just my husband challenging those assumptions I had made.
Yeah.
And like, no, you can do this. Like he could see how strong I was, saying that you can do this.
Wow. I love that. And I feel like, again, another reason I do this is there's many voices in the world, and we get to decide what voices, right, we listen to. Some people in the world might tell you, you can't get pregnant. Some might say you can get pregnant, and you get to decide who you're going to listen to, right? And sometimes those words are powerful, but again, we get to decide, and not everybody knows your situation, so not everybody knows what's best for you. Gosh, I just love that. That's an inspiration right there, because there might be somebody out there listening that's like, I don't know if I can get pregnant. I don't know if I should try. Wow.
Yeah. And I remember, like, when I first found out I was pregnant, I just had this sense of peace.
Yeah.
It's like I knew I was going to be okay, and the baby was going to be okay. I just knew it.
Yes.
And so,
wow.
we were.
Wow. That's amazing. Do you want to talk about like your walk with the Lord and how that's helped you through all of this?
Yes. So, I've been raised in, I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
And I just kind of always did that. Like we didn't go to church regularly, but I went to catechism and all that.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, I started reading the Bible. And because I don't know about other Catholics, but where I grew up, like Catholics don't read the Bible. It's like a
right.
joke. So I started reading the Bible. It's like, oh, like the things that I was taught in catechism aren't really in the Bible. So I just started questioning that and, going through that. And I've read it like every day for like over 3 years. I've read it, the Bible cover to cover, like twice. I'm on my third time now.
Wow.
And it was just through reading the Bible instead of having, the priest teach. It was through reading that I really got to be more intimate and up close and personal with God and His Word.
Yeah.
And like all these, quotes I'd heard through the years, like, oh, that's where I came from. That's kind of cool. And just like it helps me connect so many dots and so many missing pieces, and I feel so much more complete now that I read the Bible regularly, and it's just part of my life now.
Yeah, just understanding the truth, right? And experiencing and encountering Him. It's been so life-changing.
Yes, for sure.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. Tell us where we can find you. You have a website, Facebook, Instagram, I know. So tell us where we can find you, and I'll post the links as well. So definitely just reach out to Sarah if you guys are interested in her coaching programs, and just to follow her and check her out. Your story's super inspiring. So tell us where we can find you.
It's at sarahmanuel.com. I am on Facebook at, I think it might be Manuel Sarah 35, and Instagram at Sarah Manuel 35. And I also have a children's book on Amazon called Differences Are Dynamite, where these animal friends celebrate each other's differences in a club rather than being ashamed or embarrassed of them. They just embrace each other. So that was fun to put together.
I love that. So had you had that in your heart to write a book like that? And how long's it been out?
It came out in April. I originally put it together as a project in my graduate school, like 13 years before that.
Okay.
And it's just been, I should do that. And then it would get to the back burner. And so I finally had it illustrated and put it together, and it's been out, since April. So it's been fun.
I love that. Congratulations. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you jumping on. Again, you're very inspiring. You guys check her out. If you know anybody that this would bless, just pass it on, I mean, I think everybody has a story. And again, we get to choose whose voices we listen to. So I just love to share people like Sarah to just inspire and encourage anyone out there. Awesome. Well, thank you for being on, Sarah. And I will definitely be in touch and just keep watching your story. I love it.
Thank you.
Take care and have a blessed day, okay? Bye, everybody.